You try to find salvation through laws and being good, and you're washing in this and that and everything else. But to find God, you have to find Him in your heart.
Can I ask you a question? Does God die in the New Testament?
You see, I'm still going to.
Does God die in the New Testament?
I will answer his question.
Yeah, it's interesting because can God die? That's what they believe. Ask him.
Give him
How?
a compliment, but you see how they won't let you speak. You understand for yourself. Let me just give him the compliment because I might be rude to him in a minute. I want to say, well done.
No, the question is to address to the young people
it's
here.
What you did.
No,
it's something you did.
Excuse me.
No.
Could you kindly address
it's something
them?
You did.
No.
You
I'm not interested.
A discussion with
I would like you to address them. How do you believe God dies in the New Testament? Go ahead, please listen.
The New Testament, getting back to what we're talking about.
Yeah, how does God die?
What we're talking about. God didn't die. Jesus died.
And who is he? Is he God?
Jesus is God, man. Jesus, you see, you have to look up words. Yes, God, man. Because you have to understand the word incarnate. God entered His creation. He took a body and became man because He created. We're only a creation. We have no right.
Where did that creation, where did God go after when Jesus died? His body died?
No, God is by Jesus is in heaven now, fully.
So He didn't really die then,
and
really?
Jesus died and He rose again to defeat death. We know that when we die, we don't fear death. You know why? We know that when we wake up in death, we will be alive again. But none of you have any idea what's going to happen to you when you die. What happens when you die?
Sure. When I die,
Yes.
When I die, my body disintegrates.
Right.
But I have a soul.
Yeah.
God created this soul for me, which continues. So do you believe
No,
God?
asked you the question.
I'm answering.
No. You see,
If you allow me to answer.
I asked him a question, and you've seen me discuss it
I was
for
trying
you
to
and
finish
give you
my
an-
answer.
give you an opportunity.
Is that allowing
And
to
then they
finish?
keep changing it. This is a deceiver.
I was simply asking him to explain to the young, people here, how do you
You're a deceiver
explain
like the rest of your
that God
You're
dies?
a deceiver. You're a deceiver because I was speaking to these people.
I speak to them, but explain to them how you believe God dies.
You asked a question that was completely irrelevant.
Was
to
it
our
irrelevant?
conversation.
Okay.
Yes.
God
yes.
dying,
And I
is
wanted
it
to give
relevant
him
or
a
irrelevant?
compliment for something,
Can you tell him?
but he wouldn't allow me.
Answer him.
Don't involve the point.
God, who is the creator of everything, is not literal. Don't undermine him. He's intelligent. Perhaps he's more intelligent than me and you.
I will report it.
No.
They're not supposed to be on camera.
So he's saying God dying is not relevant to the conversation.
I haven't said.
But he already, what's your name?
He's telling you what I haven't said. They're
Brian,
deceivers.
you already know it makes no sense that God dying,
I
right?
didn't say all
How
this.
can God die?
I haven't
So
said all this
maybe
for
he
the
can
camera.
explain,
I
right?
didn't say any of this. The deceiver is at it again.
God doesn't die.
Yet again, I come here in peace. But how can you be in peace with a deceiver? He's putting words into my mouth. He's talking about a subject I've
Don't be
not
afraid,
talked
don't be
about,
afraid.
and he's making out I'm the bad one. You're the one who's come into a private conversation.
Private?
And you've
Speaker's
jumped in
corner.
with a question.
You're speaking to
that was
little
not-
children,
that was
and
not-
that becomes a private
that was
conversation.
not even under
You
topic.
should be very...
You, the
no,
deceiver.
1 second.
Hashim, second in command, another deceiver.
1 second. Someone speaks to children, and that calls a private conversation.
wasn't speaking
Are you
to the
mum?
child.
Should you not be worried about this?
About what?
He says he's having a private conversation with your kids. I would be worried.
It's fun, but he is really.
So what we were saying is,
Respect on each other.
Yeah.
I think we should respect each other.
Don't let your children get involved.
so God doesn't die. Is that a new belief in Christianity, that God doesn't die?
My children, they don't.
This is what they do. They don't want us to speak to Muslims, but Muslims are coming to faith.
He's intelligent.
Muslims are
Don't
coming to
undermine
faith
him.
at This corner.
She's intelligent. Don't undermine her.
Because of these people. They are frightened to speak because of people like you.
Excuse me.
Yes, people like you.
Do God die in your belief?
Maybe you should stop having private conversations.
No,
with
maybe
children.
you should stick to your camera because you haven't got a brain. I've told you before. Brainless cameramen should keep quiet.
Do you understand?
Brainless cameramen should keep quiet. Yeah, all of a sudden he's a speaker. He's got a voice.
Can you stop shouting in my ear?
Well, then move away.
Can you
So
stop shouting
move
in my ear?
away.
So basically, what you're saying.
We're talking to you.
Sorry, brother.
One thing has become clear.
You're a cameraman. Keep quiet. Keep quiet. You're a cameraman with no brain.
So in your belief, God doesn't die, right? So are you saying God doesn't die in your belief?
To you because you're a deceiver.
Tell him then.
I don't want to tell him. Why are you bringing children?
That's the level of intelligence
Why
I
are you
see
bringing children into
in this discussion.
Why are you bringing children into it? You've come into a conversation.
You are speaking to children in a private conversation.
Where we were getting on fine, but you're
getting on fine
to hear the truth. And so the deceiver comes
Why don't you
along
pick your own
and muddles it up,
size?
puts words in.
Pick someone your own size.
Came here to
If you want to have a private conversation.
today. But how can you love this brother who's a deceiver, followed by his cameraman who's number 4 in place now? Yeah, you see, number 5 over there.
Yeah, he was talking to you. Was he?
Okay, brother. What were you?
Was he talking to you? Was he talking to you? What you should do, move her away from him. Move him away.
I gave him the respect to come in and say something, but he changed the topic.
Because he hijacked the conversation.
Yes, and he put words into my mouth, but I won't have it. I won't have this deceiver deceiving me. He can deceive other people.
What did I deceive?
But I won't stand for it.
I want to know. Now I'm going to stand here,
I want to know.
and I am going to what? Defend my honor, right?
I feel so sorry
What did
for
I
your
deceive?
Muslim women.
Excuse me.
If you're married, I feel sorry for your
What did I
life.
deceive?
I feel so sorry.
What
for
did
your
I deceive?
wife. You won't give her a chance.
What
to
did
say
I deceive? Now be a man enough and tell the whole people, what did I say that was deceptive? Ryan, what's your opinion? A belief in which God
talks to children.
But you were having a private conversation with them. Look at the hypocrite. Look at the hypocrite.
Can I just say something, people? You are not allowed to have children on camera. You are not allowed to interview.
They're not recording them.
I'm trying to do him a favour because I'm going to report it, and the film will be taken down. You cannot bring children in.
No one is filming the kids. Don't you get it?
Yes, you
They're
have
filming you as a hypocrite.
You see, I'm trying to help him.
Right. What is your opinion of someone who believes God is killed by other people? What's your opinion? Do you think that is God, that you can kill him? Can you kill God? Ask him, how does he believe God was killed by the Jewish people? Debate him. Debate him. Debate him.
Who did they believe that God is? Jesus. That's what he said, right? That he believes that Jesus is God. Yeah?
Amen. Thank you, little one. Thank you, little one.
That's his belief. And he has belittled God by making him into a human being.
No, he's not belittling my God.
Let the lady speak. Can you let the lady speak?
Not your God. Maybe your God. Maybe your God. Maybe that's your God. That was literally
How can he be belittling some but my God?
Exactly.
Right.
Come on. How can you belittle God? God is God all by himself.
Exactly.
God is all by himself.
Does he have a son?
Yes.
He has that son.
So he's not all by himself then. He's got to someone else.
Oh, come on.
He's one God, 3 persons.
In one.
Because if you don't have 3 persons,
Is each
if you
person
don't
God?
have, if you're,
Hold on.
how can Allah love if there's nobody to love?
Okay, let me explain.
No, you tell us now.
I will
how
tell you
can
now.
Allah love?
Sure. You're going to let me speak without interrupting, right? Okay. How does... So the question is, very, very important question. How does Allah love if there's no one to love? Okay? In Islam, what we believe about God is this. God is eternal with no beginning. That means all his attributes, like loving, creating, being generous, being kind, being
Love is not
merciful.
an attribute.
Excuse me, do not interrupt when I'm speaking, right?
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to answer. So,
See, the arrogance.
so these attributes,
Full of pride. Watch. Full of pride.
the attributes of God were not acquired. No one gave God that this is how you love. God had the attribute of love already inherent, meaning within him. God had attributes of mercy within him. Attributes of forgiveness already inherent within him. So, when there was no one to forgive, who did God forgive? I can ask in your belief. When there was no one to punish, who did God punish? In his belief, there was someone else to punish. That was Jesus. So God must have punished Jesus. God must have forgiven him, Jesus. Hang on.
No, because
Let me finish. I have not finished.
I can't just let
Okay.
you waffle.
So, as I'm answering the question,
Punish Jesus.
So,
Jesus
when there was no one, excuse me, would you let me finish my answer?
No, because you waffle on and you don't make
Let me finish.
sense. It's your understanding.
Right.
It's the wrong understanding.
So let me ask you the question in
Otherwise, I'll
return.
let you go on. But once you make a serious error, I've got to stop you because it's
Who did God punish when there was no one to punish?
God didn't punish anybody.
Jesus.
Okay, is God,
Hallelujah.
We love Jesus.
Hallelujah.
is God in your belief a God of
Again, he's
wrath?
asking, look, you see how they hijacked it? He's going to be asking the question.
Because I want to show
Ask him
consistency.
To answer a question.
Consistency.
He hasn't answered it. Answer
Okay.
the question.
So as I was answering, thank you. So you come back to your senses. Good. So in our belief,
Condescending.
no, he's not finished yet. In our belief about God, God is absolutely independent. That means he doesn't need anything of the creation. So when there was no creation to create, God was still a creator, because one of his attributes is he can create. But in your belief, God cannot be the creator. Excuse me. Would you let me finish?
No, you talk rubbish.
Listen.
But you talk rubbish.
Okay.
Show me where it tells you God's got all these attributes.
Listen.
Show me where it
In
says
the
it.
Quran,
Show me.
God is
Show
called
me.
Al-Khaliq, the creator.
Yes.
Al-Wadud,
Yes.
the most
I'm
loving
waiting for
one.
the deceiver.
Al-Ghafur and
I'm waiting for the
Al-Ghaffar.
deceiver. And the deceiver.
Ar-Rahman
I'm
Ar-Rahim,
waiting for the deceiver
Al-Tawwab,
bit.
Al-Shakur,
You
Al-Latif,
deceiver.
Al-Khabir.
I'm waiting
So,
for the deceiver.
listen.
Deceiver.
So,
The deceivers are already here.
as we realize, listen. Now,
So where's the deceiver bit? Get to the deceiver
moment.
bit. Yeah.
Slowly.
Get to the
Because
deceiver.
if you think when I'm answering, you will understand the answer. So
How
when,
can I understand when it's gibberish?
how can you
Gibberish.
understand when you don't even listen?
Gibberish.
God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right?
Telling him he's
To
making
listen,
it up.
rather than talk more. Listen more.
No, he can't answer it. It's all gibberish.
So as I was speaking, that when you have God, God doesn't need to have somebody
This
there.
deceiver is telling you about God. You couldn't make this up. The deceiver is telling you about Almighty God, who is holy, pure, loving, forgiving, who gave his only Son that you might be set free and have eternal life. And the deceiver is explaining him to us.
Let's work out
Can you
then.
make this up?
Because he's talking about God having a son, right?
You can't make it up.
Is the Son of God like God? Don't deceive now. Is the Son of God in your belief like God?
The Son of God is God.
Right. Now you realize the Son of God died.
Can I just tell you why?
Died.
God is God the Father,
We can't hear you, mate.
God the Son.
That's 1, 2,
We can't hear you.
3.
It's 3 persons, but one God.
Creator of all those three.
One, no, not creator. Not creator.
He's the creator of
No.
those three.
Let me
and
just
all of
explain.
them.
Let me just explain.
Why are you whispering?
God is not knowable. He reveals himself through Jesus Christ, his creation,
Who was his daughter, right?
and
Was Jesus the daughter of God?
now that Jesus is not here, the Spirit of God is here. Muslims have visions and dreams about Jesus. So when you get them,
You know it's Shaitan if you get the visions. That God is a man or a woman, you know it's Shaitan.
don't dismiss them. You will get visions and dreams of Jesus.
Yeah.
And many Muslims come to faith through it. This is serious, all right? So whatever else that this deceiver says, I mean, he can't help it. If your Allah is the greatest of deceivers, why wouldn't he be?
Right. So now we have what we've heard is
He
this.
will answer that.
So you have a God. Excuse me. You have a God.
Allah
Excuse me.
is the greatest of
Mr.
deceivers.
Heckler, listen.
Isn't it the same as Satan?
Okay.
Is Satan the greatest of deceivers? Yes, sir.
So we've just heard.
Satan the greatest of
You're not finished yet? Good. We've just heard
Come on, why are you
God
answering this?
has a son, right? God has a son.
Sheikh Mansur can't answer
If somebody has a son, did God have a wife? Ask them.
Mansur can't
Who is God's wife? God has a son. Who is God's wife?
See, I told you.
greatest.
You're insulting.
Why
God
is
does
Allah
not
the
have a
greatest
wife
of
because God
Come on, all these
created
sisters.
They insult
He's got a
Islam.
son. but
It's
he's
a
not a
son.
son.
It's a title because it's the revelation of God. God is a Godhead. God is a Godhead that nobody can understand. We only understand Him through Jesus Christ. That throughout history, for 2,000 years, scholars, pagans, philosophers, Jews, everybody agrees that He was the perfect human being. And while He had nails in His fingers and on His feet, He had His back torn off, nailed to the cross.
Can you put God on a cross?
You see?
Can
He
you?
said,
Does it make sense?
forgive them. For they
Can you kill God? Does it make sense? Can you kill God who is ever living, always living? You can't. So He's asking you to believe that you can actually kill God? Imagine this belief.
How old is he? He's talking to a 7-year-old boy. I'm asking you. Mansur, did Jesus die on the cross?
So Mansur speaking to him,
Okay.
yeah?
Is
Jesus died?
Answer the question.
it's
Jesus answer the cross?
in the period of Easter, it's an interesting question. When you say Jesus, you mean He's God, right?
No, we're asking you.
I want clarification.
Christ, you see, he won't answer the
This is
question.
the problem.
The deceiver will not answer.
Brother. This is
I
the
want you to
problem.
clarify
This is
your
the problem.
points in this statement.
You ask
Did
them a
Jesus
question,
die on the
and
cross,
they
right?
answer with a question.
Listen.
Ask the question.
Okay, right.
You tell us in the Quran.
To believe.
Where does it say in the
Did
Quran?
Jesus die on the cross?
Okay, and now I'm going to answer the question.
Answered by asking a question.
No, I'm going to answer.
I want to answer.
Listen. When
Jesus died on the cross.
Sure. In here, when you ask a question, if something is not clear, we need to know what you mean by it. When you say, did Tom die in a death penalty in an electrocution, we know Tom may be a name of a person. So when you say, did Jesus die on the cross, are you saying Jesus who is God, or are you saying Jesus who is like any other human being?
Who died on the cross?
So
Clarify.
once again, we have verbal gymnastics.
Clarify.
Verbal gymnastics. That's what it is. He's
Clarification.
Rather than responding to a very clear question.
To me, it's not clear.
Historical figure called Jesus.
Man or
My
God?
question to you.
A man is talking about. Now I understand
My
it.
question to you.
Good, got it.
Is, did that Jesus, the historical Jesus, did he die on the cross? Yes or no?
Right.
Very simple.
So now
Okay.
we are dealing with. I'm speaking to these young people. Don't bother answering your question, but to them because they're interested to find out.
I asked him a question.
I am answering.
And he's answering someone else.
No.
Yeah.
Answer me.
I don't talk to you.
What?
I don't talk to you.
jumped in.
You know why I don't talk to you?
That don't make no sense.
I don't talk to you
I
either.
asked him
For a
question,
reason.
and then he says he doesn't talk to me.
Yes, but I'll answer them for a very good reason. Here it is. Here it is.
So, can you answer my question?
Listen.
Can you answer my question?
So here's the discussion. The question we've heard.
Why you talk to them?
The question we heard was this: did a historical figure die on the cross? Right?
Now he's lying. I said the historical figure of Jesus Christ.
That's the point you're
He said,
discussing.
historical figure. Get it right.
Don't get scared. Just let him answer.
So you have someone. You
I'm
have.
connecting Jesus. I'm not talking about anyone else.
You're showing your Christianity. Don't worry. We're happy with this.
So you have someone called Jesus, who is a historical figure. Did he die on the cross? Is your question. I want some confirmation of what you mean by historical figure. Was he more than a man? Or was he simply a man? It makes a difference. It makes a difference in answering the question.
Why are you begging?
If he was God, then obviously
This is embarrassing.
we will. If he was God,
I'm a Christian,
you know,
and he's talking about
and you
is he a
know
God or man.
that you cannot kill
It's
God.
not clear if he's a god or man. We have to ask you.
Okay, is this historical figure God or not God?
Okay, so I'm going to ask Mansur the question for the fourth time. Did the historical Jesus die on the cross?
Calm down. You're in front of
And
children.
that's my
Calm
question.
down.
Sure.
Calm down.
Do not try to evade the question.
Is this historical figure
Do not answer the
Jesus
question.
God
He will answer.
or man only?
We're
Or
going to keep
God
doing
only?
this. We're going to keep doing this with answers. And what is
No one's going to have a conversation with you because you're not qualified.
Because our Muslim friends, they'll do anything to evade and to change the subject. It's a very clear question.
It's not clear to me.
Very clear answer.
It's not clear to me.
We all know.
So you are under obligation to clarify to me when you ask.
No.
The clarification that we all ask, this historical figure, was he God only or man
And
only?
they say in Surah 4, 157.
Are you listening? Are you even listening to what he's asking?
Not even interested.
There's no point.
That's what the Quran says. So I want clarification.
Okay.
From Mansur, what the Quran already says in Surah 4, 157.
We know.
To you is, again,
Yeah, can you take him to the side? Take him to the side.
1 hour debate. They want to debate.
Yeah, take him to the side.
he can't answer.
Yeah. You got your little video.
So what's happening now?
This man Lamin owes everybody money. Everybody money.
As we were saying, any belief system, any religion said God came down like a dog or a rat or a sheep or an elephant or a monkey. Okay, I'm speaking to her. Imagine any belief. We're not talking to you.
I'm asking you a
See you later. Bye bye. Not interested. You can't.
Who was talking to children first?
Yes.
Do you know what happened? Mansur's got a phone for you.
So any belief. Okay, I'll address any belief system.
Why can't you answer the simple question?
People believe God became a rat, or a cat, or a dog, or a tree, or a man, or a woman, or an uncle. Any belief which has this system that God becomes something of His creation, you know in your own intellect, on your own reasoning, intelligence that God has given you, that belief system, there's something wrong with it. Why? Because to become a rat, God, who is all powerful, absolute, becomes a rat, and you can kill the rat like this? That's silly. Likewise, God becomes a man or a woman, and you can kill them. It's really some belief that is not making sense here.
20 years you've been coming to the park.
So when you
you're constantly challenging Christians.
Yeah, there's a reason he doesn't talk to you.
there is a reason we don't touch
And
you.
now we're challenging you. You are free to
Stop shouting over the children.
So I'm asking you again.
So
Your Quran is God.
You're introducing Christianity to these children.
if God becomes a potato in some belief, and somebody eats the potato in their salad,
We have killed the
would you say that was God?
Jesus, the son of Mary, the messenger of Allah.
Let's come this way. This is
Now he's running away. Now he's running away.
No, just
Why are you running away?
on the side here. Because
Why can't you answer my question?
perhaps I can learn from this young man. I want to learn from this young man.
Why are you afraid?
Right? Okay. So now tell me. See you later. Bye-bye. So, don't record children, by the way. So, if God becomes a banana in some belief, and a monkey eats this banana, you would say that cannot be God, would it?
This can be overwhelming for a child, you know.
Yeah, that's why
It doesn't look right. I'm looking back here.
Yeah, I was
It doesn't look
suggesting
right.
He's on camera as well.
Yeah,
Take your son out of here, man.
He should be on camera.
He's not in
He shouldn't
camera.
be on there. Take that child out of here.
I know that.
It's too overwhelming. You don't know what's going on.
I told them.
you're right.
You're not
Come on, son.
That's the mother.
I told them.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
I'm looking at the
You're
outside.
going to ignore the mother, you're going to say this
I warned them. I told them. Nobody
Right.
wanted to
So,
listen to the
when you go home,
I warned them.
and when you sit down, do you pray? Yeah? Pray namaz, salat, yeah?
You are the one.
Then you know, when you say Allahu Akbar, do you know what that means? Greatest. Meaning means there cannot be anyone greater than God. No one's recording. It means no one's greater than God. God is greater than every creation. I'm speaking to a Muslim child who is with the mother. I don't care what this talks. I'm trying to learn from this child. He's a young man. That's your problem.
Myself there as a little thing, I'll be like, geez, what's going on there?
Sure. So when you realize, when you pray, when you say Allahu Akbar, you know there's nothing greater than God. That means anyone who says God becomes less. He becomes a potato, a banana, a man or a woman or a rat or a squirrel. That's not God. Because God is all powerful. You know what all powerful means? He has all the power. No one has power more than God. So if God has all the power, can anyone kill God and overcome him? It's impossible. So any belief system that invites you in a private discussion, like we had an earlier with you had a discussion with someone who's what 50 years old maybe, having a private discussion with a child. I mean, that's why I was concerned. I didn't know the mother was around. Okay, you cannot have a private discussion with children here. Have a public discussion if they're interested. So it is important to question this belief. How can you believe that God dies? God can be killed. How can you believe God is born from a woman? Can you give birth to God? Doesn't make sense, does it? Allah is the one who created everything. Can anyone create Allah like him? Of course not. Because Allah is the creator, everything else is the creation. So Jesus Christ, or Isa ibn Maryam, in our belief, Islam, he was a prophet of Allah, a messenger of Allah. And he has been abused by some people by saying he is God and son of God. We need to tell them that you are insulting our prophet. You are insulting our God by saying his prophet has become God along with him. That is an insult. So if the Jewish people, you know what the Jewish people, yeah? There are people who are Jew. If the Jewish people started worshipping Moses, our prophet, and their prophet, the whole world will say, what's wrong with these people? Someone who came to tell people about God, Allah, and you take that person as God. Moses, alayhi salam. Musa, alayhi salam, was a prophet who came to tell the people, worship nothing but Allah, but God. And if the Jewish people took Musa, alayhi salam, Moses as God, you will say, what's wrong with you? How can you take a prophet of Allah as God? This is what happened in Christianity. They have taken a prophet of God as God. Okay? So it's really something that's really heinous crime in the sight of God. Allah does not forgive this kind of sin. If you commit a sin, if you do something wrong, and you ask Allah, Allah forgive me, I made a mistake. Would Allah forgive? He will forgive. Because He is merciful. He's all forgiving. But if you say Allah has a daughter, has a brother, has an uncle, has a wife, has a sister, has a son, you ascribe partners and families to Allah. Not you. Yeah, this is called shirk. And these people who do that, and if they die, Allah will never forgive them. Because this is one thing Allah, God, does not forgive. By making someone equal with him, giving him a son or a daughter or a mother or a brother and so on and so forth. Because Allah is self-sufficient. If you're self-sufficient, you don't need, imagine, I'll explain to you what I mean by self-sufficient. Imagine you want to make something, a game in your computer. You know it all. You can program it. You can make a game. You are sufficient by yourself. You don't need your sister. You don't need your mother. You don't need your friends. You don't need your teacher. You can do it yourself. You are sufficient. So when you're sufficient, you don't need anyone else. Because you can do it yourself. Allah is the perfect being. He's perfect in everything. He doesn't need anyone else. Because He's self-sufficient. Because He's perfect. Perfect and self-sufficiency goes hand in hand. So someone who says, oh, God had to come down, like the gentleman was saying earlier, He has to come down to you and tell you about... God doesn't need any of these things. In fact, okay, let me ask you. If you know everything, can you then not know it? your name is Ryan, right? Imagine I don't ever forget. I don't ever forget. I always will know your name. Yeah? So I know your name now, and I will know your name in the future. Is it possible that 20 years later, for 5 minutes, I would not know your name, when I will know your name all the time? Is it possible to forget your name when I don't forget? If I don't forget at all, can I not know your name?
A person who never forgets, can they ever forget?
Yeah, say I never forget. Ryan, I never forget your name. Then suddenly tomorrow I'm thinking, what was his name?
That doesn't make sense.
But I don't forget. It's not going to happen. It's not possible, is it? It's impossible. So they are telling you that God, who is all knowledgeable, He knows everything. He knows the past, gone. He knows the present, now what's happening. And He knows the future, what's going to happen. And then He comes down. Well, He doesn't come down. He has a son that comes down. He's also like Him, God. And He doesn't know everything. And while He was all knowledgeable, He knew everything, but He doesn't know everything. Either you know everything or you don't, right? So if you know everything, how can you then not know everything? That's what they're telling us. Now, that is what we are saying is, if you know, you cannot then not know, because you don't forget. That is Allah. He's perfect. So anyone who says God comes down and becomes a man, a Palestinian man, and He died for you, but He didn't know when the world's going to come to an end, you as an intelligent, very thinking young man, you will say, this doesn't make sense to me. How can that be? God is all knowledgeable and perfect. And you're saying, being perfect, all knowledgeable and all powerful, someone killed Him. And when He was dead, someone else have to give Him life back again. Who is the someone if there's only one God? If there is only one God, and that God is gone, who can then bring this God back to life? No one. So you have another God. You see how confusing this belief system is. One God dies and another God gives life back again. How can you give life to God? It doesn't make sense, does it?
I think Brother Mansur, I think that was the best dawah anyway. As you saw, did the Muslim or the Brother Mansur insult Jesus or God or anyone, even or their religion, even once? No. But they came, they shouted a lot, and they insulted Islam and Allah and the Prophet. This is not how you spread any religion, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think we should say that those are representative of all Christianity either.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's been nice talking to you, and as you are, nodding and answering, I really appreciate your critical thinking. You're thinking very wisely, and that shows a sign of maturity. Yeah, it really shows that you're capable of making decisions yourself. Making good decisions and so on. So I'm sure your mom will be proud of you. Okay?
Like they were saying about the coming, it's public place, right?